Finally, the Cannes Film Festival has opened in the south of France, a glitzy opening ceremony. Of course, 20 films competing for the prestigious award, the Palme d'Or. Bas Luhrman's The Great Gatsby opened the festival in its European premiere as the rain came down on the French Riviera.
Stars of The Great Gatsby channeled all the glitz and glamour of the 1920s as they descended on the red carpet for the film's rainy European premiere on the French Riviera. The movie is already becoming a box office hit in North America, but not all the critics have received it so warmly.
The great and the good of the international movie business, here in Cannes for its 66th film festival. This town's annual celebration of all things cinematic.
You must know Gatsby. Gatsby?
Kicking off this year's festival is Great Gatsby, a lavish adaptation of Scott Fitzgerald's famous novel of the Jazz Age. It has already been released to mixed reviews, but good box office. 20 films from all over the world are competing for this year's coveted Palme d'Or. Head of the jury, one Steven Spielberg.
I feel very excited to be here and very proud.
From Hollywood, there's Behind the Candelabra. It's a painful portrait of the American pianist Liberace and his relationship with his young lover. Contrast that with The Past from Iranian director Asghar Farhadi, a wrenching drama about family breakup set in Paris.
Several previous winners are returning this year, including Steven Soderbergh, whose film The Candelabra, with Michael Douglas playing the flamboyant pianist Liberace, will have a screening. No British films have been selected in the official competition part of the festival, although UK director Paul Wright will be making his festival debut with his remote Scottish village saga For Those in Peril. But apart from all the culture, what's top of the list for many movie buffs is spotting who's who on the red carpet.
I remember reading the novel in junior high school and having a completely different interpretation of who he was. I thought it was sort of a standard love story in a lot of ways, but rereading it as an adult, I really, for the first time grasped the great tragedy that Gatsby is. He is this sort of hollow shell of a man that's creating his own destiny according to his own imagination.
F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote The Great Gatsby in 1925, and since then it's inspired fashion, film, theatre, not to mention books and even video games. It's a story of excess and dramatic demise, but perhaps the greatest tragedy is Fitzgerald himself died before he experienced its success.
And Fitzgerald also sort of sums up an era and represents an era that we can now look back on and identify as a very specific era. He didn't know at the time that he was writing about this time that was going to come to an end, and his characters didn't know their party was about to stop. And that's beautiful and really sad.
Imagine if you had a shopping list for what you might want to see on the first night of Cannes. It would probably include hundreds of screaming fans, loads of paparazzi, and of course tons and tons of film stars. We had all of that, and like you say, we did have quite a bit of rain, so I think they're going to have the rain hoovers on that carpet tomorrow ahead of the next red carpet walk. But otherwise, it's been a very successful opening night. We even had Charleston dancers going down the red carpet for The Great Gatsby, which is the opening night film. Now, this is a huge, colourful, brash, noisy, everything else film. It's in 3D, it's got a soundtrack by Jay-Z, it stars Leonardo DiCaprio, and it's directed by Bas Luhrman, who never really fails to make a splash, even when, as with this film, he has somewhat divided the critics on whether it's a masterpiece or not.
Catherine, there's been some criticism that this year's festival selection has been overly dominated by French films.
That is a question that we on the France 24 team down here have put to the man in charge of selecting the films, Thierry Frémaux, and he actually pointed out this is a French film festival as well as an international film festival, so perhaps there's your answer. There are certainly a lot of French films and directors and stars being represented here, but loads of Americans, once again, much like last year. And also, if you look down that list of the 20 official competition films, there are Japanese, Hong Kong, Danish, Dutch, Italian, films from all over the world. And also to point out, this year Cannes is actually showcasing Indian cinema, which is probably the biggest movie industry in the world, so plenty of international treats.